All right, so we've dipped a little bit into this, but today we're gonna get a little bit further with what happens when we are just given 2 points. So remember our little formula, which we learned a few days ago, but we didn't have time much to practice it, was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay. So here they're telling you let 0, 2 be x1 and y1. So here's your x, there's your y, and here's your second point. So remember, if we plug these into the equation, y2, which is negative 2, minus y1, which is 2, and that's going to be over your x's. Because remember, slope is still y over x, rise over run. So x2 is negative 2, minus, and then y1 or x1 is 0. So once we have it set up, now it's just subtracting, right? So what is negative 2 minus 2? Tim? Negative 4, right? Because I go further down the number line. And what's negative 2 minus 0? Armando? Negative 2. So when I have negative 4 over negative 2, what can that simplify to? Jack? Negative 4 over negative 2 is not negative 1/2. 2, right? Because you got a negative over a negative, which is a positive, and 4 over 2 is 2. So our slope here is 2. And if we check the line here, here's the actual graph, right? Up 2 over 1, up 2 over 1. Notice it hits the points on the line every single time. So again, that's using the formula. All right, I want you to try the second box. We'll give you just a couple minutes. They were nice and labeled the points for you. So if you weren't given this part, let's say this wasn't here. Would you be wrong if you said, well, this is x2 and y2, and this is going to be my x1 and y1? Would you be wrong? No. Because watch, I'll show it to you both ways. Here's the way. Forget this even exists, right? So what's my x2? Or I should say my y2. What's y2 up here? 5. So we're 5 minus 1 over, and now my x2 is 2 minus 8, right? So if you look, this goes to 5 minus 1 is 4, and that's negative 6, right? Well, what's 4/6 reduced to? 4/6. 2/3, and there's a minus here, so this is negative 2/3, right? So we got negative 2/3, right? So watch what happens when I erase this, and I go by what they told me. So the points are flip-flopped, right? Do the same thing. So my y2 is 1 minus 5, and my x2 is 8 minus 2. Well, what's 1 minus 5? Not 4. Negative 4. And this is 6. What's the difference between what we just did and what happened just now? We still came up with negative 4/6, right? But wasn't the negative on the bottom? Right? Well, negative 4/6 still reduces to negative 2/3. So you get the same answer. So you don't necessarily have to pick the order of the points. It's just making sure you plug it into the formula correctly. See how that works? Okay. So picking 2 points from a table is the same thing. But now you got more to choose from. Up here, they only give you 2. Here, you can pick any 2 points out of the 4 and try it with the formula. So I want you guys to try that right now. I want you to pick 2 points out of here and plug it into the formula. So pick your x1, y1, and pick your x2, y2. All right? And give it a shot. We'll give you guys a few minutes here. We're going to pause. Okay? Oop, I didn't even record that. So again, pick at any point. All right? Who had I'll show you another way. So who had the negative 2/3? What points did you guys pick? You did the first 2? Did anyone pick points different than the first 2? You guys did? Okay, what points did you pick? The last 2? Okay. So here, let's show you the last two, and I'll even show you the second and the fourth. So same thing technically, right? We gotta use the same equation. So let's make this one our first coordinate and this one our second. We'll just go in order. How's that? So y2, which is this one, -1 minus 1 over x2, 1 minus 0. What's -1 minus 1? -2. What's 1 minus 0? 1. Come up with the same answer using two totally different points. See how that works? If you still don't believe it yet, what was the one you guys used, Tim? Second and the fourth one? So this one and this one? All right, so y2 minus y1, so -1 minus 3, and x2 minus x1, 1 minus a minus 1. What's -1 minus 3? Not -2. -4. And 1 plus 1 is 2. What's -4 over 2? Pick three different sets of points. All came up with the same answer. Far out, huh? All right, let's see how you remember the bottom two. Horizontal line. We talked about this, right? Who remembers the slope of a horizontal line? You had questions in your homework about this, Brittany? It's 0, right? So we already know that the slope should be 0. So let's plug it in the equation and I'll show you how. So again, I don't know. They give us 2 points out here on the graph, right? We'll make this 1 and this 2. So what's our y coordinates here? This one and that part, right? So y2 is 3, y1 is, so you have 3 minus 3 over 2 minus a -1. So I get 0 over 3, which is 0. So see, even using the formula, it shows you the slope is 0. Okay? Now the other way, who remembers the slope of a vertical line? Undefined, right? Because 0 is in the denominator. Well, let's use these 2 points they give us. We'll say this one's number 2 and this one's number 1, just because it's top to bottom. Again, doesn't matter. So y2, which is -1, minus y1, which is 2, over x2, which is 3, minus 3. So -1 minus 2 is -3, and 3 minus 3 is, and again, you can't have 0 in the denominator. So that's how it's undefined. All right, so using that formula. Now in the back, we're going to get more into the horizontal vertical line explanation. So, moving on. So there's 3 points on this graph, right? And we're going to kind of go through this kind of quickly because I want to get you guys time to do the practice quiz. So identify 3 points on this line. So here are the 3 points. So who can tell me what this point is? Right here. What's that point? What's that coordinate? Come on, not everyone at once. It sounds deafening. Tim. -1, -3. What about this point? Next one in. 0, -3. And then what about this point? Way over here. Same people keep raising their hands. Alina. No. Then we go to the right. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then down 3. So this is 5, -3. All right, so we got 3 points. Look at these 3 points. What do all these points have in common? What do all the points have in common? Joe? Yeah, they all have the same y value, right? In the coordinate, they have the same y value. The y is the same number. So who remembers how we can write the equation for this line? Remember, horizontal lines have what kind of slope? 0, right? So remember when we wrote this out, right? If you write y equals mx plus b, this is 0x. And then what's our y-intercept here? Where does this line touch the y-axis, which is, this is the y-axis. Here's the x-axis. So where does this line, touch the y-axis at? Where is it at? Joanna, where does it touch? Where does this line touch the y-axis? At 0, -3, right? So the b is -3, right? So why don't we write that as our equation? Why would that be wrong? Owen, we don't need the 0x, so we should just write what? No, we don't write x. Y equals -3. And that's our equation for the line. Because even though there's no slope, there are x values, right? You found 3 coordinates. They're all different, right? -1, 0, and 5, right? But because there's 0 slope, if I plug in a -1 to x, what's 0 times -1? 0. So the points still come out to be -3 all the time. Okay? Remember, what's the slope of a horizontal line again? 0. No slope. There's no rise. All right, so I want you to take just a second. Draw a different line somewhere. Anywhere on the paper, draw another horizontal line. I'll draw one too. I'll draw one up here. How's that? So there's my horizontal line. Okay, you draw one. Draw one that in a different spot. So the one that I drew, what do you think should be the equation of the line I just drew? If this one is y equals -3, because all the y points are at -3, right? Everyone see that? What do you think the line I just drew should be, Armando? Right. Mine will be y equals 6. So for you, whatever line you just drew, put the correct equation down. So if you went up a couple, is y equals 2. If you went above the line that was already there, right, that could be -2. Again, what's the slope of that line? Yeah, it's the same slope. And the reason they're the same slope is because also these two lines are, what do these two lines have in common? They're both horizontal, but what else? What are they? When two lines don't touch, they're parallel, right? Don't parallel lines have the same slope? So if this line had a slope of 0, the new line we drew going the same direction is going to have a slope of 0, right? Remember, parallel lines have the same slope but different y-intercepts, right? My y-intercept for my line I drew was 0, 6. The slope, the y-intercept of this line was -3. Okay? All right. Moving on down. So horizontal lines. Now let's go to vertical. Oop. I don't think I locked this. So let's go back up. Let me lock it real quick so we don't lose it again. There we go. All right, so here's a vertical line. So I want you to tell me these three. What's this point right here on the vertical line? Vertical line. So again, start at 0, 0 and count. Vertical line. Yana? 4, 2. So we go 4 to the right, 2 up. So 4, 2 is 1 point. Good. What's the point right underneath it? This guy right there. Ryan? 4, 1. Okay. And what about this guy right here? Claudia. 0, and then we're going down, but below the x-axis, right? -4. Not, no, no, no. 0, -4 is right here. So what's got to be? 4. If 4 is the x, what's the y? You went 4 this way. Yep, 4, -4. So again, what do these guys have in common? Joe? Yeah, just the opposite of what was above, right? All the x's are the same. Okay? So if we wrote the equation of the horizontal line to be y equals, who remembers how we write the equation of the vertical line? It can't be the same equation, right? Anyone remember? It's going to be x equals, and then whatever points the x have in common, which in this case is 4. And that's the equation of a vertical line. Notice there's no y. Why is there no y? Because it's undefined. We don't know what the slope is. Okay? So the slope of this vertical line is undefined. All right, go ahead and draw another vertical line somewhere. That's going to be parallel to the other guy. I'll go right here. So the blue line that I just drew, what do you think the equation of that line is going to be? If the one that was already on there is x equals 4, what do you think is the equation of the line that I just drew? Angelique? X equals -1. Because all the x points are at -1, one to the left, right? Starting to make sense? Not too bad? All right. And again, those two lines are parallel, right? So that means that the slope of that line would be undefined. All right, let's go to the last page. Right on task here. All right, so we're going to do this together here. So draw a line with the following conditions, then write the equation of the line. So we want a point that goes through -4, -7. So I got to go 4 to the left and 7 up, which I believe is right there. Right? Is that the point -4, 7? 4 left and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yep, 7 up. Now, if the slope is -2, how am I going to draw my next point? If I go from this point that we just drew, how can I use a slope to draw my next point? Who remembers? We did this Monday when we actually started doing the slope of the lines. Angelique? Go down 2 and 1 to the right. See that? So now if I draw my straight line here, let's draw my straight line. And I'm going to use my straight line tool. So I have a better chance of making this nice. I'm a little off. I'll get to line up here in just a second. I'll make sure I'm going right through the middle. There we go. Okay. So there's my line, right? All right. Now, look at the second one. We're going through the same point. So draw the same point. -4, 7. So it's up here. 1, 2. There it is. But now I want the line, the slope is undefined. What is my line going to look like? Ryan? It's a vertical line, right? Through that point. So draw a vertical line through that point, right? Oh, let me slide it over. And right there. Okay, same point again. So let's draw it again. But now the slope is 0. Now the slope is 0. What's that line going to look like? 0 slope. What middle? Which direction is it going to go? This way, this way, this way? Across, right? So we call that a horizontal line. And it's going to go across right there. Right? So three different types of lines go in three different directions, right? A negative slope, an undefined slope, and a zero slope. So down below, it's going to ask you, all right, the equations of those lines. So the equation of the horizontal line. So I know we're going to lose the picture here, but that's all right. So the horizontal line had an equation of what? What y point does it all share? Tim? No, it doesn't share 0. That's the third one. That's this box right here. That was the horizontal line. Savannah? 7. So the equation would be y equals 7. Because it shared all the y points, right? What's the slope of that line again? 0. And what's the y-intercept of that line? Yeah, 0, 7. Does it have an x-intercept? Meaning, does it touch the x-axis at all? So it doesn't have an x-intercept. Right? An x-intercept is when the line hits the x-axis. Okay? Well, look at the vertical line. What's the equation of the vertical line that we drew? That was the middle box. Right? The middle guy right here. This guy. What was the equation of that guy? Brittany? X equals -4, because all the x points were at -4. What's the slope of that line? Not 0. Undefined. It's vertical, right? All right. And then, does it have a y-intercept? The vertical line? No. No y-intercept. But does it touch the x-axis? Some of you guys are shaking your head. Yes. Where? Remember, a y-coordinate has a 0 for the x. So what do you think the x-coordinate would have? 0 for the y. So that's what? Where does it touch the x-axis at? -4, 0. So that has an x-intercept, no y-intercept. See the difference between the two lines? Now, the oblique line is the diagonal. Okay? So I'm just going to write a little reminder over the top here. That's the diagonal. So, we know the slope of that line, right? What's the slope? -2. What's the y-intercept? 0 what? Not 2. Let's take a look at, see, where does this cross the y-axis at? Right there, which is what coordinate? So 0, -1. Good. So its y-intercept is 0, -1. All right. We're not going to even bother with the x-intercept because it's somewhere in the middle there. So if I have the y-intercept and I have the slope, what's my equation of that line? Y equals mx plus b. So this will be y equals what again? -2x minus 1. All right. All right, we're going to stop the video.